Good morning, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Somit Sarkar, and my co-anchor, Ankita Saxena. Well, it's a start to a truncated week, and first up, let's look at how the global cues were on Friday. Ankita, the Dow snapped its 4-week losing streak while Nasdaq reported its best gain since early Feb.
Right, Somit, some breather coming in for the US markets finally on Friday as we close the week, of course. And this happened on the back of the Treasury yields easing from their recent highs. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 387 points, the S&P 500 climbed more than 1.5%, and the Nasdaq Composite gained 1.9% in trade on Friday. Now, the yield on benchmark 10-year Treasury note dipped below the 4% threshold. Traders have been watching very closely this 4% as the key level on the 10-year Treasury note that could perhaps trigger another down move in the stocks. Now, the yield on the benchmark 10-year Treasury was trading at 3.9% after falling 10 basis points. Now, the 2-year Treasury yield was last down by more than 4 basis points at 4.8%. So a key level that all the investors are really keeping an eye out on. And on the back of that, of course, there was a rally in the US markets. Now, all the major averages notched a winning week. The Dow Jones posted a 1.7% gain and snapped a 4-week losing streak. The S&P 500 closed up 1.9% on the week and its first positive week in the last 4. The Nasdaq ended the week 2.5% higher. So all the major averages in the positive, in the green. European markets also followed positive cues coming in from the US markets on Friday, extended the previous session's gains. The Pan-European Stock 600 index was up 0.9% at market close. DAX was up more than 1.5%. CAC up 0.8%, and FTSE was marginally in the green, very flattish, but ended the day positive like all the other markets. So that was a roundup coming in from the US and the European markets. Somit, tell us, where is the crude at?
On the commodity side, if you see, crude prices remain largely volatile in trade, and that was amid the news reports that were coming in that UAE might exit OPEC. Now, firstly, if you see, crude prices declined as much as 3% in trade on Friday, but ended the day 1% higher, and this is after UAE denied the reports of it exiting the OPEC. Now, oil prices gained around 1%, and for the week, if you see, oil prices gained over 3%, which is the highest in the last 3 weeks. When it comes to gas prices, they again tumbled below the $3 per MMBTU mark, and this is on the back of the forecast that is coming in for milder weather, which could lead to lower gas consumption, because that would be milder weather would mean heating demand would be lower in the country. On the gold side, if you see, gold prices gained around 1% and were trading around $1,857 per ounce mark, which is the highest level since Feb 10th. And for the last week, if you see, gold gained the highest weekly gains in the last 7 weeks, and this was on the back of a soft dollar that we had seen.
All right, Somit, we'll quickly go through all the events that we need to keep an eye out on in today's trading session. Now, a lot of events, a lot of things that are happening as of today. In the US, we have, of course, the wholesale inventories that are coming out. Tomorrow we have, it's on the 7th of March, which is tomorrow. On the 8th of March, we have the trade balance. On 9th of March, we have initial job claims. And 10th of March, we have the monthly budget in the US. It's an action-packed week. Also, we have India's IIP, UK's IIP and trade balance. We have the European Union retail sales, GDP numbers, China trade balance, and China's CPI numbers that are likely to come out today. Also, in India, back in India, we have today is the last interim dividend date for all cargo logistics, which is on the 7th of March, and on the 8th of March, we have SBI Life, and 10th of March, we have HAL. Also, we have, it is also the last day for a buyback proposal to be considered for Natco Pharma on the 8th of March, which is day after tomorrow. So these are the events, a major lineup of events for this week. Somit, take us through what are the global news that are making headlines for today.
Well, firstly, from China, the world's second largest economy gets an economic growth target of around 5% for 2023. Now, after a year of tepid growth because of the stringent pandemic measures, China's inflation is pegged at around 3% and a 5.5% unemployment rate, with a creation of as many as 12 million jobs.
And staying with China, the finance minister is set to hike the defense spending target by 7.2% to a whopping $230 billion. This is a slight increase over last year's 7.1% growth.
Well, a blockbuster listing is expected from the Softbank-owned chip designer on the US exchanges later this year. Now, the company is likely to raise as much as $8 billion at a valuation pitched for the chip designer ranging from anywhere between 30 to 70 billion US dollars.
And cautious stance coming in from Bank of Indonesia governor, who said that the country's inflation will remain above 5% in the first half and below 4% for the second half, largely due to the lofty food prices. Mainly South Korean inflation decelerated to 4.8%, allowing a greater scope for the central bank to extend a pause on monetary policy tightening.
Well, former President Donald Trump said he will remain in the 2024 presidential race despite the criminal charges in the ongoing investigation of 2020 election tampering. Now, Trump made the pledge in a response to a former Fox News reporter at the annual Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington.
And after days of absence from court hearings in the Toshkana case, the former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan dodged an arrest after authorities arrived at his residence in Lahore. He has thrice avoided indictment hearings in an Islamabad session court.
Well, on to the mega ET Now exclusive. Now, our managing editor Nikunj Dalmia caught up with the man of the moment whose 15,000 crore rupees investment in the 4 Adani Group companies cheered the market. Now, Rajiv Jain of GQG Partners explains his rationale behind the big bet. Listen
in. This short sale report came out, which obviously was very strongly worded in my opinion. Although as we started peeling the onion, we thought that this was kind of, old rehashed story, and from our perspective, the substance was not as meaningful here. But that sort of triggered this leg, which took it down. And I think the other part is that the technicalities of the index players involved, so and so, kind of made it worse.
Right. The fact that Adani Group of stocks by traditional yardstick are expensive and that debt levels are high. As a fund manager, as an investor, what gives you the conviction that both the concerns which historically have been big concerns for Adani Group of stocks, those concerns, according to you in your playbook, is something which is manageable?
See, if you look at vast majority of the assets are regulated assets. They tend to a very, very long tail. So when you can't have financial leverage along with operating leverage. These companies have very sort of predictable long-term trajectory, even if you slow down the growth. So that's the first part of it. And when you adjust for the leverage, in fact, if you look at the U.S. utilities, and we own a bunch of them, on an average debt to EBITDA levels in U.S. utilities, and these are some of the best of the breed, is around 6 to 7 times debt to EBITDA. If you look at the leverage here, it's around 3.5 times. But the growth capex is why the negative free cash flow kicks in. So I think they have predictable earning stream that has 20+ year visibility. These are regulated assets, and in growth utilities they tend to have negative free cash flow. That's the norm. That's, in fact, you want to have them. You want to have them have negative free cash flow. That means because they're able to deploy capital on a longer term basis with fairly attractive returns. So the debt levels, when you look from a utility perspective, is actually on the lower side, not on the higher side. But if they lower the capex plans, which they already announced, I think it becomes a fairly attractive sort of risk reward.
Every investment which you do comes with an underlying risk. So for Adani Group of companies, how would you define your risk? What could go wrong, which you currently are aware of, but that is something which you're factoring in? What is the risk according to you?
Well, I think as you said, there are always some risk in that. I think the risk would be if the growth slows down dramatically in some of the companies that we own, because the regulatory issues that they might face on a go-forward basis. Because in regulated businesses, the biggest risk always is regulation, right? That's the positive, but that's a negative. We don't see any signs of that yet. One of our concerns was, in terms of sort of managing growth, because these are complex projects. I think that, by the way, is sometimes not well appreciated, is that the barriers to entry in infrastructure anywhere in the world are very high, particularly in India. Execution extremely difficult. You might remember that POSCO Iron and Steel tried to acquire land for 7-8 years, couldn't even acquire land, and then they left. So greenfield projects are very, very difficult. And that's what actually we quite like it about this group, is they have shown remarkable ability to execute on greenfield projects. And I feel that they don't get full credit for that in terms of ability to pull that off.
That was the mega exclusive with Rajiv Jain of GQG. Do watch out for the full conversation. And with that, it's time for us to take a quick breather. You don't go anywhere. There's lots more news coming up on the domestic front.
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Straight up, let's go across to some news for the hearing impaired.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी आज स्वास्थ्य और चिकित्सा अनुसंधान पर बजट उपरांत वेबिनार को करेंगे संबोधित। नर्सिंग कॉलेजेस की स्थापना, आईसीएमआर प्रयोगशालाओं के सार्वजनिक और निजी क्षेत्र के उपयोग सहित अन्य मुद्दों पर होगी चर्चा। मेघालय में विधानसभा के विशेष सत्र में नवनिर्वाचित विधायकों का शपथ ग्रहण समारोह आज। कॉनराड संगमा के अगुवाई वाले एनपीपी गठबंधन को यूडीपी और पीडीएफ का मिला समर्थन। गठबंधन को 45 विधायकों का समर्थन। भारत की G20 की अध्यक्षता में वित्तीय समावेशन पर कार्य समूह की दूसरी बैठक आज से हैदराबाद में होगी शुरू। 2 दिवसीय बैठक के दौरान ग्लोबल साउथ की उभरती हुई अर्थव्यवस्थाओं के साथ ज्ञान और अनुभव साझा करने पर होगी चर्चा। नौसेना कमांडरों का प्रथम सम्मेलन आज से होगा शुरू। समुद्र में आईएनएस विक्रांत पर सम्मेलन का पहला चरण किया जाएगा आयोजित। रक्षा मंत्री स्वदेशी विमान वाहक पर नौसेना कमांडर्स को करेंगे संबोधित। पाकिस्तान में तोशखाना मामले में गैर जमानती वारंट का सामना कर रहे पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री इमरान खान ने देश के मुख्य न्यायाधीश को पत्र लिखकर कोर्ट में पेशी के लिए मांगी पर्याप्त सुरक्षा। सरकार ने इमरान के भाषण या प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के प्रसारण पर लगाई रोक। डब्ल्यूपीएल में आज मुंबई इंडियंस और रॉयल चैलेंजर्स बैंगलोर के बीच होगा मुकाबला। कल खेले गए रोमांचक मुकाबले में यूपी वॉरियर्स ने गुजरात जायंट्स को 3 विकेट से दी मात।
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe. Let us quickly take you through the stellar lineup that we have for you on the market, which is the show right after this. At 9:20, of course, we have Manish Santalia, who's the head of equities of PMS at Motilal Oswal AMC. He's going to give his current views of the market. At 10 a.m., we have PN Vasudevan of Equita Small Finance Bank on the industry growth trends. And at 9:20, we have Sanjeev Chopra, F&PD Secretary, on the impact of the rising mercury. And the government has revised the windfall taxes on crude oil production, ATF and diesel exports for the 16th time. Petrol exports remain out of the ambit. Now let's go across to my colleague Prakash Priyadarshi, who joins in via phone call to break the story further.
Yes, government has reviewed, windfall gain taxes on domestic crude production, ATF export and diesel export, and that is primarily based on the fluctuation in the global market in last 15 days. And as per the notification that has been issued by the Ministry of Finance, windfall gain taxes on domestic crude production has been increased to rupees 4,400 per ton from existing 4,350 rupees per ton. So there is slight increase in windfall gain taxes on crude production, which means government still believes that domestic oil producing companies like ONGC and OIL are still making profit. But when it comes to windfall gain taxes on ATF export, there is a relief for the companies, as government has decided to remove windfall gain taxes on ATF export from existing 1 rupees 50 paise per liter. But when it comes to diesel export, there is again a relief for the companies, as government has decided to reduce windfall gain taxes on diesel export 2 rupees 50 paise per liter from existing rupees 2 rupees 50 paise per liter. So it's a relief for the companies, and mind you, petroleum is still out of the ambit of windfall gain taxes, and this revision has been made based on two important factors. The first one is with regard to some stability in the currency market, stability in fluctuation in rupee, and another important factor is the stability in prices as far as crude oil is concerned, along with the retail prices. So based on these two factors, government has decided to reduce windfall gain tax on ATF and diesel export. And yes, there is a relief as far as these two products are concerned. Now, what will be the government decision? That will be based on the based on the fluctuation in the global market as far as crude oil prices are concerned. Let's wait and watch.
Well, thank you, Prakash, for all those details. Moving on, Mahanagar Gas is a stock that would remain in focus. The company has announced its first ever inorganic growth plan. Now, it plans to acquire Unison Enviro for around 531 crore rupees. Now, this deal is expected to get completed by the end of next financial year, that is March 31st, 2024. Now, Unison is a city gas distribution company, and it has three geographical areas under its belt. Firstly, it's Ratnagiri. Secondly, it's Latur and Osmanabad in the state of Maharashtra. And then there is Chitradurga and Davangere in the state of Karnataka. Now, for Ratnagiri area, if you see, the marketing exclusivity has ended in the calendar year 2022, that is last year, while for Latur and Osmanabad and Chitradurga and Davangere, the marketing exclusivity is expected to end by the calendar year 2027. And when it's come to the infrastructure exclusivity for Ratnagiri and for the other two areas also, it ends at around calendar year 2041 to 2043. Now, how are the financials looking? Now, the revenue growth has been very strong for Unison Enviro. From 7 crore revenue in FY20, its revenue has increased to around 89 crore. But do remember, it's still a loss-making company, and the gross debt on its book is just 113 crore rupees. Now, what are the positives that are coming in from this deal? Now, firstly, Mahanagar Gas is a debt-free company with cash of more than 1,800 crore rupees on its book. So, funding this acquisition won't be an issue for Mahanagar Gas, and this transaction is very important for the company, because if you see in the last many city gas auctions, the company has not won any new geographical areas. So the biggest concern for Mahanagar Gas was its future growth plan and long-term growth plans, and this acquisition puts a rest to these concerns among the investor community. Now, what are analysts saying? That they say that the transaction is of strategic importance for Mahanagar Gas, as the extended footprint would help them to scale its future business development activities across a larger network and customer base, thereby providing new avenues for long-term growth. Now, geographical areas which it will be acquiring from Unison Enviro, it's already present across these areas, which means that the capital expenditure required for the incremental capital expenditure required would be on the lower side. And they are also saying that given the fact that this transaction has happened at an expensive valuation, it is reflective of the high growth potential of this acquisition. Now, as I was mentioning, that the acquisition is done at around 20 times its price to earnings, discounted at the future growth rate that is expecting, and current valuations of Mahanagar Gas, if you see, it's at only 12 times its 12-month forward price to earnings. Now, given the expensive valuation, the deal, and the fact that the company is loss making, the deal won't be EPS accretive in the near term at least. However, on the long term, analysts continue to remain bullish. Other than Mahanagar Gas, now the other stock that would remain in focus is Ashoka Buildcon, and that is because it owns around 51% stake in Unison Enviro, and it was expected to get close to 271 crore rupees out of this, as against its equity investment of only 71 crore rupees. So keep an eye out for these stocks in trade.
All right, Somit, we will keep an eye out on all these stocks. Now, moving on, a big development in Yes Bank 81 bonds case. The Supreme Court has stayed the High Court order that squashed the write-off of 81 bonds. Now, next hearing is later in this month. My colleague Ankur Mishra has more details on this.
Yes, important developments happened at Supreme Court where the court has admitted the petition which was filed by Yes Bank against the Bombay High Court order. Earlier, Bombay High Court had quashed the writing down of rupees 8,415 crore worth of 81 bonds. And remember, this decision was taken as per Yes Bank reconstruction plan, which was prepared by government and forwarded by Reserve Bank of India. And at that moment, it was decided that the 81 bondholders should not be paid anything. In fact, the whole amount of rupees 8,415 crore became zero for them. And after that, the bondholders moved High Court for asking for a relief, and Bombay High Court did give relief to bondholders and said that the writing down scheme which was there for rupees 8,415 crore of 81 bonds was not correct, and that order needs to be quashed. Now, lender has moved Supreme Court against that order, and Supreme Court has given a date of March 28 as the next hearing. They have asked Yes Bank to prepare a plan and keep small bondholders in their mind while preparing that plan. We need to wait and see what happens on March 28. But for now, the observation of Supreme Court is that the small bondholders should not be ignored by the lender.
Well, moving on, India's largest airline company, that is Indigo, is in talks with plane maker Boeing and the current supplier for aircraft for the company Airbus for a major aircraft order of 500 plus jets. Now, the agencies reported suggest that the airline is studying both Boeing and Airbus wide-body jets. Not just that, Indigo is also comparing Boeing's 737 MAX and Airbus A320neo, which are the narrow-body aircraft that is there in the industry. Now, the said order will set a new industry record in place just weeks after the domestic rival Air India's mega order of around 470 aircraft.
And my colleague Sumita caught up with the LIC chairperson MR Kumar. Let's listen in to his take on the current insurance space and how product simplification is going to be critical. Let's take a look.
Technology is going to be the key, as I said. That will be the major trend that will change the way we work, the change we market products, the change we create products and all that. Two, the regulatory changes that will come in view of the talk going on about composite licensing, and that will change the landscape a bit. And third, of course, insurance for all by 2047, the mantra that is being taken up here also in the conference and by all insurance companies. These are the three things that will drive the business going forward.
So you also mentioned that India, of course, is the fastest growing economy, but I think, product simplification is critical. Organizational structures are not flexible. If you could also speak a little bit about that.
What I mean to say is that if you heard Mr. Bandyopadhyay talking from PFRDA's point of view, that people still are not able to make decisions or take decisions. So the more you simplify the product, the more easy it is to make people understand what they're really buying and what they're going to get out of that product. That is going to be the game changer.
Right, and so actuarial calculation will of course change in life insurers going forward. And how will it sort of impact the insurance sector? If you could speak a bit about that as well.
I wouldn't be able to talk about the actuarial part of it. You can ask one of the actuaries. I'm sure they'll be able to explain. It's not so easy to explain for laymen,
Right. And in the recent Bima Manthan meeting with IRDAI, what goal has been given to life insurance companies? Would you be able to
we basically talked about 2047 insurance for all. How can we make it to simplify? How we can simplify claim settlement? The end product and the moment of truth, whether we can make something better with that. Those are the things that were discussed.
Well, let's also listen into what the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had to say at the Raisina Dialogue 2023 about private sector's participation.
There is no sector now in India which is not available for the private sector to be in and function. And when we say a minimum presence of government in those core sectors, we mean that institutions which are big enough to run on their own steam will be there. But if there are others who are very small or unsustainable or not scalable, if there is a possibility, we will try to blend them so that a bigger unit, sustainable unit, a unit which can on its own take care of its needs, we will blend them and create a larger entity which can continue to be there. It's not a crazy rushing out to sell everything, nor is it sitting and saying government will run the business of producing pins to aircrafts to everything. So where the government doesn't have to be, it won't. But where, because of strategic interests, you have to be, it will be there, like telecom, for instance. There will be a telecom company, which will be government's. And it will be run professionally. So it's not as if the government is completely selling out everything. At the same time, it's also not as if it's going to be running all the businesses itself.
And well, with that, it's time for us to slip into a short break. You don't go anywhere. There's lots more stock-specific news coming up on the other side.
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Well, on the chemical side, if you see, a channel check is suggesting that inventory destocking is expected to prevail in the near term and will last at least for the first half of calendar year 2023. Lisa is joining us to give us more details on the same.
Yes, the channel check by B&K Securities, it suggests that the inventory destocking issue will continue in the near term, as well as the global commentary that suggests that destocking will go on till H1 of this calendar year. On the demand trends, it said that the demand is expected to remain muted as the China demand is yet to see full revival and recovery, and revival could be seen in the second half of this year. Well, on the pricing trends, the key commodity prices have remained more or less flat to negative, and that is because in the Indian context, the demand is yet to see some green shoots. Well, for the Feb month, the prices of the commodities, the key commodities, have been a mixed trend. On month-on-month basis, the major increase has been seen in acetone and phenol, which will benefit Deepak Nitrite. Soda ash also was up around 8%, benefiting Tata Chemicals as well as GHCL, and TDI prices was up around 6%, benefiting GNFC. On the major decrease, vinyl acetate monomer, which is a raw material for Pidilite industry, that was down 14%. Refrigerant was down around 4%. And acetic acid was down around 10%. PVC resin also was down. It saw the major decrease of around 14%, which is negative for Chemplus and Mar. So, well, this is the trends which is coming out from the channel check carried out by B&K Securities.
All right, thank you for that, those details, Lisa. Moving on, we have all the stock-specific action for you right now. We have in our studio, we have Ashesha and Vamakshi with all the details. First up, Ashesha, Tell us, what are the stocks that we need to watch out for in today's trading session?
Hi, good morning everyone. So IEX will be the first one in focus in today's trading session, and that will be on the back of operational updates that the company has released for the month of February. Average daily volume traded on the exchange has risen by about 5% on a month-on-month basis for the month of February. However, overall volumes have declined by about 5% on a month-on-month basis, and this is due to lower trading days in the month of February. Demand for power has increased during the month due to unusually warm temperature and sustained momentum in economic activities, and the company has also said that supply constraints are expected to ease in the coming months due to conducive policy and regulatory initiatives. Apart from this, Ashoka Buildcon will also be in focus, and this is on the back of an order win, where the company has said that they've won an order worth 265 crores from Southern Bihar Power Distribution Company Limited, and this is for a project in Bihar. So on the back of this order win that has come in, Ashoka Buildcon will also be in focus in today's trading session. Moving on to Sumitomo Chemical then, where Gujarat Pollution Control Board has ordered the company to restrict and close its operations at its Bhavnagar site. The Pollution Control Board has also laid down certain conditions and has asked the company to fulfill these conditions which have been laid down. The company has already fulfilled several of these conditions and is already in the process of taking necessary steps to comply with the other instructions that have been given out by the Pollution Control Board. Apart from this, Bajaj Electricals will also be in focus, and this is again on the back of an order win, where the company said that they've won an order worth 565 crores to supply goods and services to South Bihar Power Distribution Company. Lastly, Anant Raj will be in focus. They've informed the exchanges that they will be raising about 550 crores via NCDs in 2 tranches. So on account of these fundraising plans, keep an eye out on Anant Raj as well.
Well, thank you, Ashisha, for all those details. And now let's go across to Vamakshi to get to know which are the stocks that would remain in focus on the back of brokerages.
Well, absolutely. Let's first start off with Nykaa. We have Macquarie, who is initiating coverage on the stock, and what they're highlighting is that the success of the fashion business is yet to be proven. Investments at Nykaa Beauty, however, need to increase, and that is imperative for Nykaa's further growth. Now, given Nykaa's limited operating history as well as the need for growth investments, Macquarie is cautious on the stock. So, given all these factors, they've actually gone ahead, initiated coverage on Nykaa with an underperform rating, target price of 115 per share. The next one on our radar is Britannia. We have a note that has come in from CLSA, and what they're highlighting is that the top line growth is expected to be driven by volumes, but in the near term they're expecting higher wheat as well as milk inflation to impact margins. So on the back of that, they've downgraded their rating on the stock from underperform to sell, given a target price of 4,060 per share. And lastly, we will be watching out for SBI. We have a note that has come in from Morgan Stanley, and we did see that the stock price did correct over the past 2 months, but Morgan Stanley is expecting that the share price is expected to rise relative to the industry over the next 60 days. They're positive on the stock given several factors such as its strong earnings profile, steady margin improvement, as well as good balance sheet. So on the back of all these factors, they've maintained an overweight rating given a target price of 715 per share.
All right, Vamakshi, we will keep an eye out on all those stocks you just mentioned. Now let's move on and look at the key takeaways from the Pidilite management meet. Nuvama has pointed out a few key points, and my colleague Winnie is here to give us more details on that. Take it away, Winnie.
Absolutely, firstly, let's highlight in terms of the margins that we've seen coming in, because margins had been under pressure for a while. The raw material price inflation was something that had impacted the margins. Management highlights that they expect the margins to start seeing an improvement in the coming quarters. Also, rural growth, that was very strong during the COVID period. They've taken the heavy lifting, what you could say, in terms of growth over the COVID times, but now rural growth is a bit slower. But in terms of the CAGR, they are still at reasonable levels. That's the word coming in from Nuvama, especially the highlight coming in from the management. Now, other than that, core businesses, they said, will continue to do well for the company. They are already the second largest players in terms of tile and stone solution market as well. And other highlight is that the salient aiming to be a growth category going forward as well for Pidilite. As of now, the company gets 15% of its businesses from Genie Dealer app, as well as the sales from e-commerce is up by 14 times in the last 3 years as well. Overall, sharp scale up in distribution partnered with HUL to sell products in rural Bihar is a key factor that we are watching out for. Nuvama is currently maintaining a buy rating and maintain the target price as well.
Well, thank you, Vinny, for all those details. And with this, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Cafe. Stay tuned to ET Now for more.